Hi there. Today, I'd like to talk to you about including individuals with unique function. In the upcoming lesson, you'll be participating in a class in which students with ADHD, deafness, and quadriplegia are included in a physical education setting. The aim of this video is to help you understand these functions and what you can do to make the individuals feel as included and as engaged as possible. There are many misconceptions about disability. It can be challenging to put yourself in the shoes of someone with functions that are different than your own, and to truly understand their struggles and range of abilities.
Quadriplegia from a spinal cord injury occurs when damage to the spinal cord results in some degree of loss of function in all four limbs. Quadriplegia does not mean that the individual has no control of their limbs, it just means that function has been affected. In many cases, the individual still has full cognitive function. These individuals require modifications, equipment, or assistance to complete daily activities and participate in sport, but with a little creativity, they can be included in a fun and meaningful way. An individual with limited arm function may be able to hold a basket that they can use to catch. Using a larger ball in kicking games allows them to use their chair to bump or pass the ball. Depending on the specifics of their function, target sports, such as bocce, are a fantastic option as it can be played with or without an assistant and is easy for those with and without unique function to play together. Quadriplegic individuals can also be involved with strategizing and coaching if they are not comfortable participating in a physical capacity. It is important to remember that there are some safety considerations to be aware of when working with individuals with quadriplegia. Individuals may have spastic muscles, respiratory problems, and trouble regulating their body temperature. It is important to ensure that they get lots of water and may need a cool towel accessible to help them cool down quickly. In particular, when working with younger kids, it is important to remind other children to respect the wheelchair as part of the individual's personal space, and to also be cautious when horsing around near the individual. PE can be an excellent way to help an individual with quadriplegia reach their physical rehabilitation or developmental goals by integrating some of the movements needed for gaining independence in daily life into the class. This may be as simple as practicing fine and gross motor skills, helping to develop neuromuscular pathways.
It's hard to follow what's going on when your main method of communication is taken away in a world designed for people who predominantly use verbal methods to communicate. This is a challenge that deaf people face daily. It's easy to forget just how much verbal communication is used in most sports until you can't use it anymore. Deaf people can still participate in nearly all team sports with minimal modifications as long as their communication needs are considered. There are shades of gray when it comes to people with deafness. Some are completely deaf, while some have some sort of hearing ability. Some hearing aids allow some increased function, and some people learn how to read lips. Depending on which part of the inner ear is affected, some people may have issues with balance.
I remember growing up, I often wanted to play out on the playground, and I would often probably be excluded or not given the opportunity to play first. Maybe some other kids would be chosen ahead of me, or for whatever reasons. And I feel that they didn't respect me as a person, as a deaf person. So with that, I sometimes feel as an athlete, I'm always saying, come on, it's me against the world sometimes. But it makes me more focused and more intense, driven. I want to win. I'm here now, and I'm here to make a statement and show that I can play, I can compete, and I can do whatever you try to do. So maybe some deaf kids here feel that same way. I have been through doubt when I was a young boy. I've played sports on hearing teams, and they looked at me and said, "Oh, you're deaf, you can play?" And I've had to prove them wrong, that I can play. I'm just deaf. And yes, that did fuel my fire and proved to them and that I have the passion. And I didn't let them just have me sit on the bench, got out there and worked hard to actually play. I've got that experience, and so have the other players. And so we feed each other, and that really helps make a better team.
They do a great job of communicating, and they have a medium of communication that's very simple. They can talk to each other, and they don't have to create a new language, where I think, as a matter of fact, we might be at a disadvantage. We've actually got to create a language week in and week out so that we stay, apart from our competition.
Sometimes it's a disadvantage during the rain and fog, it's hard to see, but we have backup plans. But most of the time it is our advantage. As a quarterback, I get to call all the plays that I want without the opposing team knowing. It's like we're playing with a no huddle. That's the one nice thing, is that they don't know what we're saying. We're visual, and we can do audibles that way, tapping each other, getting each other's attention, where the opposing team would have no idea what it is we're saying. They're more alert. They really have to pay attention to the coach. They have to pay attention to the situations. They can do anything except hear. And I've noticed that our team works really hard in school, the weight training, whereas the hearings, they socialize with each other. I don't think there's a lot of disadvantages. The only one that I can think of is sometimes the refs will give us a hard time. For example, last week we had a game, and our coaches will often step out onto the field a little bit to get a signal of a play to our players. And then at halftime, the officials will come up to the coach and say, the coaches aren't allowed to be on the field because those are the rules. So sometimes it is a disadvantage, but other than that, we really work hard. We want to be the same as any other team. Bottom line, the playbooks are the same. It's just we can't hear.
It is important to ask the individual what the specifics of their function are, and how you can best communicate with them. While it is unreasonable to expect a class to learn sign language, a teacher may take it upon themselves to learn a few basic words or phrases and teach them to the class so that they can have basic communications with the individual with deafness. There may be some safety concerns related to balance if the vestibular portion of the ear is damaged, and that may require additional caution when doing activities where balance is a key factor. In addition, this individual will be relying on visual cues to orient themselves with their surroundings. They won't be able to hear someone running behind them, a ball bouncing, or people yelling. For this reason, it is important to be aware of their positioning during class, making sure they have a vantage point that allows them to rely on visual information. Incorporating an individual with deafness into an average PE class is not excessively difficult when the specifics are understood and the instructor makes the appropriate preparations.
Hey guys, here are a couple very simple signs that can incorporate someone who's deaf into your physical education class. First one, encouragement. Good job. Second one, thank you. Ready, stop, and help. So just using these simple signs can really encourage someone to participate in your class.
It can be challenging to focus with so many things going on at once. This example loosely simulates one aspect of ADHD with multiple streams of thought going on at any one time. It is challenging for an individual with ADHD to focus on one thing for very long. Individuals with ADHD may also be impulsive and may sometimes say or do things without thinking through the consequences. These individuals don't intend to be inappropriate, they just process things a little differently than others. This doesn't mean that inappropriate behavior should be tolerated, but when addressing any inappropriate actions, focus on changing the behavior, not the individual.
The important thing to remember with a child with ADHD, you're not looking for necessarily the right activity. What you're looking for is the right amount of activity. So that's often where, as parents, as therapists, as communities, as teachers, we need to make the best guess as to what we think the child will do well at, and then we need to be persistent with that. So for those people who are working with the child with ADHD, once you've decided on what activity it is that you think is going to be most successful for them, then you got to stick to it. So making sure that you've got that positive force, you have that positive energy that's saying, yeah, we can do it, we can try it again, we're gonna get good at this, and remembering to just be really mindful of how well the child's doing in certain areas, even if they don't have the whole thing right away.
I found the lower block hard. But when I first started, I got taught it, and I'm just like, no, I can't do this. It was frustrating. I got everything in the middle of the lower. I finally got the cross down when I got to the lower block. I'm just like, what? The way I overcame my frustrations is by I would kind of go into a certain room where there's no one there, and I would just practice and practice.
So one thing that we want to teach children, as well as we want to teach parents, is that they need to continue to try something until they have success. So already, children have learned if they've got attention deficit disorder or some other kinds of disability that's impeding their function, they've learned that something's going to be harder for them than for another child. And we've got two kinds of responses to that. They can give up and look for something different, or they can keep at it until they have success. And it's really that latter one that's going to give them that confidence, and that's going to give them that courage to try something new.
Karate is helping my concentration and my energy because before I started karate, I was usually running and wound up in the house. Now my mom doesn't even have to say a word to me when I get home from karate because I'm so exhausted. It's like I love working. The way I work in karate is like I love it.
Oftentimes, I do recommend martial arts for kids who have ADHD. If families can find a gym that's going to be able to be aware of what ADHD and be able to accommodate those needs, then it's a fantastic one. It's got the physical activity that the kids need, but also secondary to that, it's got all the training that helps those external pieces about control, about mindfulness, about organization, about setting goals and meeting them. It's got all those things built right into the sport, and then as the child ages, they start learning to take those on for themselves. So they can have those skills when they reach high school, when they reach post-secondary, when they've got families, jobs, adult friendships. They've got those same pieces that they had in martial arts. Martial arts in general, I think, is good for all of us because I think most of the time in North America we do have that problem of keeping our heads on one topic at a time. It's not just the kids with ADHD who have difficulty with that.
Everyone enjoys and is better able to focus when they're doing something they enjoy. Find out what the student likes to do and do your best to integrate aspects of that throughout the lesson. This avoids long durations of time that the student may feel bored. Many ADHD students will only require minimal modifications to participate and will participate in sport and activity alongside those without unique function. However, there are still safety concerns to be aware of. Medications will often be prescribed to people with ADHD, and it's important to be aware of any medications the student is on and any side effects that may be relevant.
Forever. I've also got a bit of a name for myself as the dude that crowd surfs in his wheelchair at festivals. Now, I've been very lucky to travel around the world, attending a bunch of different music festivals, and everybody knows me as, oh man, you're that guy that crowd surfs in his wheelchair? Now, to be honest, the first time that I ever did this was completely out of necessity, because I was sick and tired of sitting in the mosh pit and looking at all your asses all day. You don't understand how much that sucks after a while. But from the first time I did it, I was absolutely hooked. It's an incredible feeling sitting on top of that crowd in what I like to call the best seat in the house. And to be honest, it really is incredible. I think it's a really cool metaphor for people with disabilities as well. You know, what they can really do, getting out there and breaking the mold and doing what's unexpected of them. And on a side note, I've only fallen out once, and don't worry, I didn't get any more disabled from the fall, so it's all good.